is so powerful in that it doesn't come to you like a roaring lion, it doesn't. You would excuse lust. That's how lust works. It's so powerful because it's subliminal. It's almost like suggestions, it's tiny suggestions on the trail. Just leaves them small, 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 small. You have no idea that you're Hansel and Gretel and you're just picking up these breadcrumbs, and before you realize it, you are way, way, way past where you're supposed to be at now. Hi, welcome to my channel. Dashe Sonia Kemi, that's my name. Recently I have been musing on this particular thing, and I reached out to a pastor friend of mine because I felt like it would be better to come from a pastor than from somebody like me. Anyway, so I reached out to the pastor friend of mine because I felt like he would be in a better position to talk about it, since he's a man of God. He's in the fivefold and he's on the pulpit, and it's about how you see a man of God and you just love the man of God, or the woman of God and you just love the woman of God. And my description of a man of God or a woman of God is not necessarily somebody who is on the pulpit, even though we have come to ascribe men of God to be. Once you say a man of God, the first thought that comes to your mind is the person who is on the pulpit. But I remember during one of the courses that I took, one of our teachers, he said that we should always remember that if we don't learn anything throughout the course, it was 6 months or 3 months, if we don't remember anything throughout the course, we should remember that I am God's man in the midst of God's people. I am God's man in the midst of God's people. And it's stuck in my head. So whenever I say man of God or woman of God, I'm not talking about the people who are preaching on the pulpit or who are in some kind of ministry that we ascribe to the fivefold, but that to you and me, people who agree that Christ is Lord, we understand and we have faith in the revelation and the resurrection of Christ. So man of God, woman of God, anytime I see that, just think about it in that I'm talking about you and me. So and I say, you just find, you just see a man of God or you see a woman of God and you just like the person has this aura around them that is just so likable. They're talking and you're like, oh yes, just say more. You just want to hear more of what they have to say. You just want to be around them. And I was wondering, why does that happen? Am I the only one that has experienced it? Am I? I think the reason why we love them and we find ourselves drawn to them is because of how much time they spend in the presence of God. It's because of how much time that they have sacrificed themselves to God. The Bible says that our offering is a sweet smelling aroma, acceptable to God. And so every time that they go into the presence of God and they sacrifice a part of their humanity, a part of them that is prone to sin, they sacrifice their flesh, they spend in the presence of God, they amass this sweet smelling sacrifice, and they come and they're sharing that love. There's a way that you are in the presence of God and you just feel loved. I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you enter into that presence, you don't want to leave that presence. There's so much warmth there. There's so much love. I don't know how to translate forgiveness into feeling, but that you feel forgiven, you feel welcomed, you feel engulfed in the presence of God, in the lovingness of the Father. And that's how you bring it out, that when you enter inside, when you come out, you are exuding that, you are smelling like the love of the Father, because you have entered into the presence of the Father. When Moses came down from the mountain, after spending so much time with God, his face shone. He was shining and he didn't do anything. He was just in the presence of God. I mean, if you're looking for glow up, that's the best way to get your glow up, is to be in the presence of God. But then, what do we do with that love? When you see a man of God or a woman of God who is exuding that love, and you just want to be with that person. You just want to enjoy the aroma that they're exuding. Here's where the devil gets us. Is that when we find that love, when we enter into that place where we have affection for these men and women of God, our minds, our flesh translates that we must have an intimate relationship, a sexual intimate relationship with that person to be able to show the love, or to be able to, get that love. And that's where we get it wrong. I believe that we're supposed to love men and women of God. Again, me and you, we're supposed to love one another. We've been called to love one another. But sometimes, because of that draw that we feel for these people who have sacrificed, who have given themselves up as a sacrifice pleasing unto the Lord, instead of us to love them in the love of Christ, in the all-encompassing love of Christ, our humanity tells us that for us to love them, we must desire to have a sexual relationship with them. We must desire the closeness that lust lurks in the corner for. And I know that we're meant to have affection for them. There's a series of teachings about love that Pastor Chintok has done. But there was one time he was talking about, he said that if you don't have affection for someone, you will rarely pay attention to the person. And so we have to have affection for our brothers and sisters so that we can pay attention to what they say. If somebody that I don't know or I don't care about tells me something, shares their opinion with me, I probably would not care what they say. But if it is my mom, for example, or a friend of mine, or a part of the body that I have affection for, I would pay attention because I have affection for that person. And so I believe that we are supposed to have affection for our brothers and our sisters, our fellow men and women of God. So how do you avoid that loophole that is lurking? Because lust is such a powerful, lust is so powerful in that it doesn't come to you like a roaring lion, it doesn't, you would excuse lust. That's how lust works. It's so powerful because it's subliminal. It's almost like suggestions, it's tiny suggestions on the trail. Just leaves them small. You have no idea that you're Hansel and Gretel and you're just picking up these breadcrumbs, and before you realize it, you are way past where you're supposed to be at. That's what lust does. So how do you overcome that tiny, powerful force? By sacrificing yourself. The sweet aroma that comes is because they have sacrificed themselves on the altar. And you can do the same. You can also put your own stones, put the firewood, and fall upon it and offer yourself as a sacrifice. And the more that you do, the less of your flesh is available, the less of, the less lust has to cling on to you. And so you can have a long, beautiful relationship with, other men and women of God without necessarily thinking that you have to have a sexual relationship with them, that you can love them freely, wholly, from your heart, just the way that Christ has told us to love. And you would know that there's no desire beyond the love of Christ. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I like to hear your thoughts. I like you to follow. I like you to share this video with somebody that you think would appreciate it or love it.